Good morning, you guys. Welcome to Flora Lane. I thought this morning we would do a quick tour of this garden. It has been a labor of love since the day we moved in here, and it's been a few months since we've been out here. And I figured, let's see how the garden's changing and talk about what's blooming, the changes that I'm making, what grew well here, what didn't, and everything that this garden has to offer and how I've been incorporating it into my gardening life. So for those of you who are new here, this bed was completely filled with liriope when we first moved in here. And when I'm saying completely filled with liriope, I'm telling you this has got to be like 8 to 9 feet wide and about 40 to 50 feet long, filled with liriope. It was not my jam. It did not look good. And it was one of the first things that I did in my gardens when we moved in here, because I knew it was a space that I didn't love, and I wanted to immediately put my stamp on this house and this garden. And because it was just liriope, I felt very comfortable removing it and planting it up. I didn't want to touch too many other areas here when we first moved in because I wanted to see what was here, and I'm glad I did because there was a lot. This bed gets full sun. It does have an irrigation system, and the drainage here is not great, so the plants do get wet feet. So I do have difficulty growing things here like Nepeta. Coreopsis doesn't love it. Some spots Sedum Autumn Joy doesn't love it. Really depends. I do have some here in the beds, but like I have Sedum Autumn Joy here and it does not love that location. I'm going to move it out and plant it somewhere else. But just to give you an idea of what's blooming here right now, mid-September, in my Zone 6B garden, for starters, the Black-Eyed Susans. I transplanted these from the Welcome Garden 2 years ago. I did a couple of clumps here, a couple clumps there, a couple clumps there, and all the way down the bed. And I love how it looks with the pinks in fall. It's just yellow and pink in this garden is so pretty. So this year, new thing that I did was I started gomphrena from seed. Last year I fell in love with gomphrena. I planted Truffula Pink by Proven Winners, loved it so much, did so well here that I wanted to grow a bunch more from seed. And so I did 2 different varieties and planted them all down through the bed, and they're fabulous. The rabbits left them alone. They might have nibbled on them early in the season, but aside from that, haven't had any issues on it the rest of the season, and I was not spraying them. I think I sprayed them once and left them alone after, and they've been doing great. I've been cutting them, I've been drying them, they've been going in arrangements. Really, really, really love gomphrena, and I will definitely grow it again from seed. I started mine indoors under grow lights. I'm pretty sure it was 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost. Really easy to start from seed. They grew really well here, and I highly recommend it as a great cut flower to grow. I planted several sunflowers to go in this whole bed, but that's the only one that took. And when I say took, the others did take. It's just the rabbit got to them. So that's the only one that is remaining. I planted this hydrangea. I actually have 3 going through the bed, probably 2 years ago. Love the color. They start out with a white. They start to turn pink, and it's really beautiful. And then the foliage gets a beautiful fall color. It might be a little moist here for them, but they're doing okay. And so I'm gonna keep them here for now. I've got a volunteer celosia here, some status, perfectly pink angelonia by Proven Winners, Queenie red lime. Now it is starting to get that powdery mildew on it. It's the end of the season. It's really cool here at night and pretty warm during the day, and those are just ripe conditions for powdery mildew on zinnias. And it's the end of the season, which is like the sign that it's almost over. So this happens every year with my zinnias all throughout the property, and it's just the weather. There's not much you can do about it. So yeah, I could sit here and try to prevent it a little bit with some neem, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it at this point. When the flowers don't look so good, I'm just gonna pull them and they'll be done. Loving them still. I can still cut them. If I do go to another plant, I do clean my snips in between so I don't transfer any disease problems between the two plants. But yeah, so this is just the time of year when this happens, and they actually really do well in this garden. It's just we're at the end of the season, so it is what it is. I've got some agastache in here, some coreopsis. It did okay. It doesn't love it here, and I dug and divided this when we first ripped out the liriope, and I just don't think it's thriving in this garden because it's a little too moist. My pot needs a complete update. I'm gonna keep the Prince Tut, but I'm gonna rip everything else out and go with an autumnal look. Maybe I'll get some kale and some pansies and things like that. Oh, and speaking of pansies, so in this garden, I had a border of supertunias. I actually have one left, and the only reason I kept this one is because it was still blooming, but it looks like it's kind of on its way out too. But I did a whole border of supertunias. It looked really pretty in the summer, but I think for next year, because this is such a moist garden, I'm gonna go with sun patiens, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I planted sun patiens around the front pond, in the pond. Actually, the roots are actually sitting in the water, and they are thriving. So I think this is a great spot for them. Gets full sun on this end. Down there we get a little more partial sun, but over by my front pond it's part sun for the most part, and they're doing great. So I think they'll do well here, and you know what, I just want to try it. So I'm going to do that next year. I'm going to do a whole border from here and just go all the way down with, you know, maybe a couple of different versions of pink. So that's just a little note for 2025. What else do we have going on here? I've got Queenie Lime with blush zinnias, one of my favorites. I've got these beautiful asters, pollinator plant, native to where I am in Zone 6B, New Jersey, and pollinators love them. Some more angelonia, perfectly pink. I do have some amaranth in here. They did okay. That one's red spike. Something definitely got to the foliage. I've been growing amaranth from seed for a few years now, and I really just haven't loved it as it grows here. I feel like celosia does a lot better in my garden and kind of gives you the same look, and I can use celosia in much of the same way as beautiful filler and bouquets, and it dries well. So I think this is my last year of growing amaranth. I'm just not that into it. Let's see. Yeah, I gotta pull this supertunia. It's seen better days. Some more gomphrena. I mean, isn't it beautiful? Got some sedum autumn joy here. It loves this spot. This spot it's doing well in. That spot over there, not so much. Look at that patch of gomphrena. Isn't that something? So one of the things that I'm going to be doing in here is I do want to tuck in some evergreens this fall. I feel like this garden needs more year-round color, and I want to make it more of a mixed border. So I do want to add some conical evergreens where I've got some of the zinnias. I'm sorry, I'm in a flight path, so every 5 seconds a plane is going overhead. It's hard to film these sometimes. The struggle is real. But anyway, I do want to tuck in some evergreens for color. I'm thinking some conical evergreens, but I gotta look into which ones can handle a little more moisture because it is more damp in here, and I don't want to have fungal problems after spending the money on, you know, an evergreen. So actually, if you have any suggestions on what I can plant, I'm all ears. Leave them in the comments because I'd love to know your opinion on what you think would look good. But I'm just thinking, like, I want to get a little more structure in the gardens here. And the reason why I've done so many annuals is because, you know, I just didn't, you can just keep spending money gardening. So I've just been digging, dividing, and trying to do it on a budget. And now I'm ready to really add some more plants. So I'm going to be doing that over the next year. So hopefully this garden will have a different feel next year. So we've got another hydrangea in here, and I've got some cupcake blush cosmos. I'm pretty sure it's cupcake blush. I'll have to look it up. some more angelonia, black-eyed Susans. That beautiful plant right there is Amsonia storm cloud. So you can see it does get really pretty fall color. Gets beautiful blue flowers in the spring. Really, really love it. It's a gorgeous plant. Pollinators love it. And let's see, what else do we have here? I've got another sedum. I think that's back in black. I think I gotta move it because I planted it, I want to say last year, and it hasn't really grown much. I think it's probably too moist there, so it needs a change. Coneflowers here, they did well, they're done. I've got some daylilies there. Oh, there's a daylily over there, but they're pretty done. Monarda, getting some fall color. Still looks pretty good, even though it's not blooming anymore. Then I've got some liatris that I love. I keep the seed heads there, the birds love them, and so I just kind of leave them be. I've got some geraniums in here. I've got one mum that has returned from last year. One out of probably, I'm sure I planted a lot more than that in here. Mums are fine, they're great, and they have their place in my garden, but I definitely don't rely on them to come back year after year, and this is why. And then on this end of the garden, clearly I have not planted as much as I did in the front 3/4 of the bed, but that's because this is a little bit shadier. I had every intention of coming in here with some impatiens, but it just started getting hot. I had planted like so many seedlings and I was just kind of done planting. So I just kind of left this bed alone. I think I'm going to do some more digging, dividing. I want to put a Lacotho, I think, in there for a little evergreen interest and maybe move those astilbes up a little bit. I do love this portion of the garden. Oh, clearly I need to spray my hostas again because look at that. Luckily it's the end of the season and I almost don't care as much, but I will come out here and spray them one last time before the first frost, just so the rest of them don't get eaten. Probably deer. Got some astilbes in here. Had every intention of planting this up, didn't do it, so we'll just not look at that. I've got some beautiful lungwort, I believe it's pinkablu, some Solomon seal, some more sedum autumn joy, and I just need to do more in this garden. So I think this is going to be another fall project for me. I really want to work on this garden this fall. You know, with so many beds here, the struggle is real with deciding where I am working and where I'm putting my time. But now that I'm seeing how this garden is coming together and the tweaks that I want to make, I'm going to start doing them this fall. So I'm really looking forward to making the changes, to be honest with you. I'm really pleased with where this garden is going. I'm all about the flowers. I want all of my beds to have flowers. And it's just really fun to kind of tweak things as they grow and, you know, learn how to adapt your beds to your personal tastes. You know, I mean, we all have different tastes and things grow differently in different gardens, and you know, you just kind of learn as you grow. So this bed has been a work in progress, continues to be a work in progress, and I'm really excited to see it come back in 2025. Guys, thanks so much for joining me in Flora Lane today. I hope you enjoyed the tour. If you enjoyed my gardens this morning, I would love for you to come back. Please subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video, and let's talk flowers. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy a beautiful day.